we go be, enjoyment you go meet, happily you go live, forever I promise. Baba Isikati waya, waya.
So recently I had a new subscriber reach out to me and ask the question of what my recommendation is for some good places that are free that they can park up during the day or at night. And I know that can be a bit overwhelming when you start van life. When I started, I did kind of have a sort of idea in my head of where I wanted to park, but it's not really until you actually start living the lifestyle that you start to really understand some of the little things that make a big difference. So here are some of my recommendations on where to park. So parking up during the day is usually pretty easy. It just depends really on what sort of scenery that you like. So for me personally, I love the ocean or being in a national park, but things that I need to look out for in advance are public toilets. So generally if I get somewhere that I don't know the area very well, I'll kind of pick somewhere, a localised area where I think I want to be, whether it be near the beach or whether it's in a national park somewhere if I plan to do a hike. And then I'll look for public toilets in that area because that's one thing that I kind of really need. The second thing is access to Wi-Fi, cell reception, because I work full-time. So if it's a weekday and I need to work, although I have bought Starlink now, so it's not as much of a problem for me anymore. But it really just depends. On the West Coast, it's really easy to park up most places for free. On the East Coast, it's a little bit more difficult, especially in the inner city areas. You don't have free parking a lot of the time, but if you go a little bit further out of those busier areas, generally you'll find a free place to park for the day. Now, when it comes to parking up at night, that can be a bit more of a challenge, but the first thing you need to think about is your safety. So I'm actually never parked up in remote locations on my own at night. I like to be able to jump into the front cab and honk my horn if anything ever goes wrong, because it will alert people around me, and even though they may not necessarily come out, they might call the police if they think something's going wrong, but first and foremost, it would probably scare off any intruder that is a potential that someone else might come out to alert the police. So I always just try and make sure I'm in a residential area. So even if that's a small township, because it's, it's safety in numbers really. So when it comes to picking your location, the other reason I never park up at a beachfront or somewhere remote is because the rangers can fine you, especially if there's no camping signs. And in Queensland, there was actually a sign that said they would fine you $600 if they caught you parking overnight and sleeping in your van at the beach. So, and it's not very good for your nervous system to have that bang on your van to wake you up. And who wants a fine, really? So in the 3 years I've been going, I have been fined once. I wasn't parked up at the beach, but I was in a few blocks back from the beach where there was an oval, but it was a particular country town where it was a lot of stealth campers, so the ranger was really onto it. So if you tend to go you can look for industrial areas. Not so many residents there though, so you've got to watch out for your safety there. But if you are on private land, then the rangers won't come knocking on your van. So yeah, industrial areas, built up housing, because if there's a lot of cars parked on a street and there's a block of flats or units and things like that, the residents themselves don't know which house you're actually visiting, and sometimes it can be the residents that call the ranger on you. And understandably, if you're taking up their space, if you're making noise, so I always make sure that I've done everything I need to do, all the doors are closed and I can jump through to the back cab from the front cab, and that way I'm not disturbing anyone. I never leave rubbish anywhere, I never make noise, because you do need to be mindful of other people as well. I imagine if you were living there, you wouldn't want people rocking up and camping on your street and being a nuisance. So when it comes to personal comfort, you want to do things like make sure that you're parked on a quieter street, because even if it's a busy street and even if it's 60 k's an hour and a car is going past, your van can wobble and shake, and the noise, and if it's a suburb where there's a lot of homes, that it can disrupt your sleep. So yeah, try and go for the quieter streets. I look for wealthier suburbs because they're generally quieter, but you need to be mindful of trying to blend in. But you also want to make sure that the street is flat. So you don't want to be, on a hill. You don't want to be, sometimes the street parking can be on a little bit of an angle. So depending on whether the head of your bed can be changed up. There are a couple of comfort things you need to think about. If I'm in travel mode and I'm going to a smaller country town area that I'm unfamiliar with, I always try and get there well before dark, because that way I can drive around, I can suss the place out, I can pick a few different places I think would be suitable to park. Now, in some cases, I might not feel safe to park in the street because, I don't know, it might be a country town that seems a bit more rough. Some of the mining towns can be like that. So there are occasions where I will choose a caravan park because of my own safety, or maybe I just need a hot shower for the day. So if I'm really struggling to find street parking in a high density residential area, some of the other places I might look for is, for example, like a hospital. So smaller country towns generally have hospitals, but you want to make sure it's one that's open 24 hours, and you want to make sure that it's got plenty of spare parking. You don't want to be taking up parking of anybody else that might need it. And so that's generally a pretty good quiet place to park. The other place I might look for is a backpackers, but be really warned that it can be very noisy. So you can generally blend in, just do street parking out the front of a backpackers. Hotels as well, but if the hotel has its own car park, just be wary that sometimes you have to register your license plate if you're staying there. So they might have security looking out for that, so just be mindful of that. The other thing is the gym. So I have gym memberships because I like hot showers. So I might choose to stay out the front of the gym that night. If it's in a dodgy industrial area, then I may not feel safe to stay there and look for something else. But the other one, worst case scenario, I'll look for a McDonald's or a petrol station. If it's a bigger petrol station, you can generally park off to the side. They can be really noisy though, especially like a McDonald's. It's generally attracts hoon behaviour. So, and it can be really noisy. You can hear the actual drive-through speaker most throughout the night. So it's really like a last resort for me. But generally, because those places are manned, then someone will call for help. If they can see something, a kerfuffle going on, if someone's trying to break into your van or something. If you're looking for that van life lifestyle where you are more remote, then Australia's fantastic because it really does have a lot of free campsites that you can use, even with toilet facilities, not necessarily shower facilities though. And I've got to say that generally there's usually a lot of people at them. There's a lot of grey nomads travelling around Australia, so they're going to be pretty safe most of the time. However, you want to make sure that you get there early enough to ensure that is the case in that particular spot that you want to stop. Just me personally, I wouldn't sleep well if I was on my own and there's no one else around. But most of the time I have pulled up where I've been caught out and I haven't got to my destination in time, and I've gone past one of those free sites and it's just chockers with people camping, families, grey nomads, everything. So that's perfectly fine. But yeah, just always trust your gut. It will always tell you. If you pull up somewhere and you're thinking, it just doesn't feel right, trust your gut. If you've got to drive another half an hour to an hour to get somewhere you feel safe, then just do that. In saying that, don't drive tired. Yeah, so that's why it can be quite important just to make sure that you pre-plan a little bit and try to make sure that you get to your destination with enough light, that you can make sure that it is a safe place to stay for the night. So I've actually been living this lifestyle for over 3 years now, and I have never ever felt unsafe. So it can be such an amazing lifestyle. I don't know if I ever want to go back to a house, to be really honest. It's a really freeing life to have, living on the road. But just, you know what it would take for you to feel safe. So just take those measures to make sure that you know, you do get a good night's sleep, and it is the lifestyle that you want it to be. I'm a very big believer in what you think about, you bring about. So if you're feeling safe and happy, then that's the lifestyle. You will experience a safe and happy van lifestyle. So yeah, I hope some of these tips have helped, and yeah, comment below on some of the other tips if I haven't mentioned them in this video. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you haven't met me before, my name is Christy. I live, work and travel Australia in my van Gypsy. I am an artist, and my artwork is available as prints or on t-shirts and bags on my website. The link is in my bio.